Hey guys, welcome back to Elder Dragon and to our second Dragon's Lair podcast. Today is going to be a spicy one, or even a salty one, I should say. We are going to talk about salt in Casual Commander, what causes it, why people get salty, what cards do we play that make people salty, and what cards make the guys specifically salty, which should be interesting. It might get heated. We'll have to see. As well as that, we're going to do our commander design challenge as well at the end to see what we come up with. So, just before we get started, if you like this video and you want to see more podcasts talking about EDH, some gameplay videos, subscribe to the channel, give us a like, and down in the description box below as well, there'll be links to our Patreon and to our Discord, where you can come and hang out with us, play some games, and get really salty as well. So, I'll introduce the guys. We got Ed, we got Tim, we got Yaoling, also known as James, and we got Dark Truths, also known as Josh. Hello. Are you guys there?
Hey. Hello. Yeah.
Hello, yes. I am here.
We have all arrived. Okay, excellent. So, first order of the day. What do you guys think causes salt? What causes people to be salty in specifically casual Commander games?
I think for me, it's very rarely like specific cards or specific actions, unless someone's like really going over the top. It's more about a mindset thing. I think that's the same thing anyway. I think as long as everyone is there to be having fun with everyone else and trying to win, there's not a lot that people can do in a casual game that makes me too salty.
You think it's mindset?
But I mean, yeah. Tim, the problem is that there's only a finite amount of fun in every Magic the Gathering game, and some people just want to have 50, 80, 95% of it.
And you are one of those people, right?
The Simic player shuts up.
I do think I agree, though. I think, because for me, I think it is mostly mindset as well. And it might be subconsciously mindset as well, because people don't necessarily come into the game with the idea of being the saltiest person there, or to make everybody as salty as they can. But that could just be the way things happened. Could be the way, could be the day the person had that they're like just in a bad mood and they play Commander, and then the smallest thing can set them off. Or they just don't.
Actually, I'll tell you a really...
Yeah, go for it.
I'll tell you a really funny little story. Not really Commander related. I had a pretty bad day. Was going to go to an FNM draft a couple of days back. It was an AFR one. And because I was going to be late, I was really moody. So I turned up, sat down to this draft, and I was like, not taking any of the banter or anything like that. I sat out for this draft, literally did a lovely little Rakdos deck, basically. And then won first game, won second game, won the third game, and then won the fourth game. And I was like, hang on a second, this has never happened before. And I ended up winning the draft. So I would say that that was a very good case of salt being actually really good.
I think that's an interesting thing because I think there's really different mindsets though between kind of competitive play and commander play, right? Yeah. I was watching a relatively big streamer the other day, and they were playing a control deck, and someone called them out on their chat and said, "Oh, you're playing the bad guy deck," and he just came straight back. I said, "No, this is 1v1 Magic. There is no bad guy. There's only trying to win. If you want someone to be the bad guy, go play Commander, because there's the format that's allowed, and if you're not just trying to win within the rules of that, within those constraints, you're not playing the game right."
Yeah.
That's not to say that. Yeah, and there's a place for that in Magic.
Yeah,
and that's 1v1.
Yeah, 60 card formats, definitely. It's 1v1. You can't be like, it's like 1v1 and you play a secret rendezvous. You're like, It's like, oh yeah, have 3 cards. My only opponent that's trying to beat me. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Almost like that's why they printed that as a commander card, Kiefer.
Yeah.
I think there's several different types of salt. There's the LGS salt, where new guys come to a shop. They've not had that Rule Zero checks. I think Rule Zero prevents a lot of unhappiness in games, because if people know what we're approaching, they can prepare for it. But if someone starts a game without knowing we're going against quite a high power deck, and they bring a little precon that's just going to do stuff and things for 4 hours, but not do anything, but they're still having fun, and this person just stomps them in the first 5 minutes, that's salt. They won't enjoy that. But then there's also when there's the frustration of, I built this deck, I'm playing against this type of these other decks, mine one isn't fitting in, so they get frustrated with not being able to use their deck like they intended it.
Yeah. I think the rule 0 is a hugely important thing, I think, because I think someone can show up to the table with and I'm going to play my Thrun the Last Troll, green Boggles deck, which is very low power, and the other person can come across the other side of the table and show up with an Urza artifact deck, and like, fine, whatever. But if that person comes and says, hey, I want to try out this deck, it's really powerful and it's going to do crazy stuff, I'll be like, yeah, okay, fine. But if they don't say anything and they're just like, yeah, I'm just going to play this, and then they can start going off, then I'm just like, what the hell, man?
It's just an upgraded freecon. Yeah.
I think it's a funny one, right? Because I can only speak for myself and what causes me to become irate and frustrated. I mean, salt is a bit of a meme, and it's not really salt. It's like I become frustrated and irate, and then I get grumpy. I know that in one of the games that's on the YouTube channel, I just turned into an absolute twat, and I don't think it comes across that much on the video, but I was really not happy, and I was having a really bad time in my personal life, and it bled over. So and I didn't realize that until a couple of months later, a few weeks later. I was talking to Josh about it, but I was not in a good place, and possibly I shouldn't have been trying to play a multiplayer game, and certainly not filming it for somebody else's YouTube channel. It was probably not fair. But then, if I'd had the self-awareness to realize that, I probably wouldn't have been so angry, and we wouldn't have had that problem. So mindset's definitely an issue, but I think it's more the people. So. For me, it's the people, and it's how they approach the games. I would personally rather get stomped in 5 minutes and go, okay, well, that was fucked up, shuffle the decks and go again with something different, than spend an hour doing nothing because I'm up against like an inappropriately hard control deck, or a prison-y type Staxy kind of deck, or even just like spend an hour with my precon, top decking, playing a land, doing not very much in my turns, whilst everyone else is taking 5, 6, 7 minute turns, slapping stuff down, doing loads of things, passing to me, and I look at my hand of 3 cards and go, okay, land, Arcane Signet, pass. It's just like, I just feel like I'm wasting my time, and when that happens, I get frustrated. So that frustrates me. But when I'm playing with people that I enjoy playing with, I become typically less frustrated by those things than when I'm playing with people that I don't like, or that have an attitude that I don't gel with, and I can't connect with them on a personal level. Then it just all breaks down, and I'm done. And I put those people on a list. I don't play with them again.
Yeah, getting the playgroup right is important. Right,
Yeah.
I think that's definitely true. And if you can all be on the same wavelength, then the chances are that you're kind of self-regulate. I think to some degree, or maybe you were all Commander's an ever-advancing format. It's only ever going to get more and more powerful as time goes on, because there's only ever more cards and more upgrades. But as long as everyone's kind of moving at the same kind of speed, I think that's fine in my mind. And Thomas said something interesting in a game a few weeks ago. It was a really good game. I can't even remember who won, and it doesn't matter, because what happened was everybody deck did its thing, and I think everybody did its thing. Everybody feels good about it and had a good time, and so no one's salty, right? And if you lose, oh well, maybe next time, But my deck did its thing. Someone else did their decks did their thing slightly better or slightly faster, or it just managed to prevent you going off. Whatever the reason was.
I think that's
Do you remember?
Yeah, that's the idea. That's kind of the ideal commander experience, right? But a lot of times it doesn't end up happening. Whether you're mana screwed, mana flooded, or the decks are mismatched, or whatever have you.
But that's why you have within a group of people, you'll have methods to get around it. So often, but not always, people that are mana screwed or mana flooded, well, mana flood less so, but mana screwed, you kind of say people all right, why don't you just go grab a land?
Yeah, scry yourself a land to the topper.
This is stupid, you've got 2 lands, it's turn 7. You're not doing anything. And you do other stuff like that to try and get the game flowing. I mean, I know that I played a great game with Kiefer where I borrowed somebody else's deck, and as he handed it to me, he said, "This is not CEDH." And that should have been a portent for what was about to happen, because it went bananas.
Wait,
do you remember that, Kiefer?
He said that it wasn't a CEDH deck?
He said it was not a
That
CEDH
was a blatant
deck.
lie.
And that was his introduction to this deck. It was a Kinnan deck, and I went infinite on turn 2. And I had Eldrazi and all sorts of stupid things going on. It was wild. And everyone else had played the tap land. We didn't go past turn 2. We just said, okay, you win. And we just played something else. Remember that, Kiefer?
Yeah, that was insane.
I think if that's going to happening on turn 2, and everyone just going, okay, put that away. Here's another deck.
It wasn't my deck.
Fine, right?
I didn't know what was happening. It was like holding the power of God in my hands. I just looked at his hand. And I was like, whoa, whoa.
That
it was fun.
avoided by Rule 0, which is fantastic. But I do think there's certain cards out there that you need to have your own earnest. That as soon as you put that on the board as your commander, there's not going to be one player against you. There's going to be 3, because these cards are powerful cards, and they naturally need to be dealt with. People hate it. Me and Ed have had this conversation backwards and forwards about certain commanders. There is kill on-site commanders, and that is unfortunately what you have to build around, because if it's let's use Crick. Ed's got a Crick deck, and everyone just presumes with experience and a little bit of muscle memory and experiences playing previous games, people remember the game sometimes, and that bleeds over to their new games. When I went against Ed, he had a Crick deck, and I was like, oh, it's Crick, it needs to die. Now that's not happening. And then 2 games, Ed ended up peering to Abyss himself, just to be able to find cards, to be able to play his deck.
Yes,
so,
but that's kill on-site commanders I agree with, but what you're talking about is a blend of kill on-site commanders and kill on-site decks, and I don't agree with kill on-site decks. Once you've played the deck a couple of times, you get to know that person's Crick deck, Merrin deck, and then it becomes a kill on-site deck. Kiefer's Karth deck, that's a kill on-site deck. I don't care what he says. He killed me on turn 4 with that. That's a kill on-site deck. And as he was doing it, he was like, my deck never does this. My deck never does this. Vraska, 5 ways. Vraska 5 ways. So, that's a kill on-site deck. Just kill it. Right away. Karth hits the board. Bang.
I do agree that I think you need to not necessarily know somebody else's deck, but you need to have a bit more experience playing with that person, and then them playing that specific deck to know whether or not the deck itself is the issue. If it's a really powerful commander but a really bad deck, then not necessarily a kill on site commander in a way. But it's kind of similar to what, because I have a Lyra Dawnbringer, like Mono White Angels deck, and that's not very powerful. I mean, it can do good things, but it's not very powerful. It's very slow.
Lyra is very good as a land.
Yeah, and my commander used to be Avacyn, Angel of Hope, but anytime, even though my deck was like pretty low power, anytime I'd get Avacyn out onto the board, instantly dead, exile, get rid of her. And that happened so often, so much, that I was like, right, I just have to not have her as my commander, because I just never get to play her. And that's why I switched her out to Lyra, because Lyra's a good commander, but she's not kill on sight.
So what would have happened if you played that one? What would have happened if you played out that Avacyn?
Either everybody would instantly target me, so just try to attack me with everything they have, or just throw anything, exile, return to hand, all that kind of stuff. Anything that would
or prison.
What would have been your output if you did have that on the board?
Oh, if someone had destroyed my commander.
Oh, if you had Avacyn on the board, how does that impact what you're doing?
Oh, I mean, it makes all of my stuff indestructible.
I know what Avacyn does.
Yeah. We all know what Avacyn does, but she costs, what does she cost? She costs 8 mana? 8 mana in a mono white deck.
Every permanent you have.
It's a mono white deck.
But it's a mono white Angels deck, Josh. He's protecting like a 5/5.
I have 8 lands and I have maybe one other Angel.
He had some card draw thing he played the other day where it was like, it costs 5 mana to play out, and it costs 4 mana to activate.
It was 3 mana to play out.
Right.
And it costs 5 mana to activate, and I draw 1 card and an opponent gains 3 life. I can't remember what it was called.
It's an 8 mana,
Armistice.
Draw 1 with a downside.
And people are worried that that's indestructible. But anyway,
Mono White's going to get you.
But that's why.
Mono White's going to get you.
One other thing as well that I kind of just thought about, where kind of is salt in a sense, is when somebody, and I experienced this not too long ago, is when you play a game with some people. More so when they're not people you know very well. You play a game, and just say I win the game, from whatever deck I play. Then we go to play the next game, and instead of having a new Rule Zero conversation, because everything is completely clean again, so clean start. We're all playing new, fresh decks, so let's have a power discussion again. I feel like there's an inherent salt that gets carried over into the next game, where people are like, I'm now going to play my most powerful deck because I want to win. And it's like there's no kind of okay, we're starting fresh again, we're just going to play new decks and we'll talk about them. But it's just no, I'm going to play this now. And it's their crazy powerful deck. And I decided, it's okay, I won that game. That deck was pretty good, so I'll change out. Maybe I'll play something not so powerful this next game. But then my opponents are like, oh, screw that, I'm playing this.
I think that's that part of that, trying to find a balance, right? People will overcompensate quite often, I think. And I think you're right, that does definitely happen.
But do you think there's a certain amount of... So I agree that does happen, for sure. And I know that from the outside looking in, I might be accused of that from time to time. But when that happens, and I'm part of that mindset of bringing out something maybe more powerful, I wouldn't say more powerful, I would say probably I would bring out something that I consider to be more reliable. And it's not because I want to smash you into the ground. Well, they kind of go hand in hand, but I don't think about it in terms of power. I think about it in terms of reliability. And it's not because I want to smash you into the ground or I want to win the game. It's because I want to do something. And if I had a deck that did something and I lost, I probably wouldn't feel that way. But if I had a deck and I just didn't do very much, I would probably bring something out that I consider to be more reliable, not to beat you with it, but just so that in the next game, I knew that I was going to be able to, from my perspective, play Magic. Whereas I may not have felt like I had done that. Whereas you have played Magic, so you might think, I'm going to turn it down a little bit, rein it back. But what that ends up happening is, even if you started off, say, like that, now, because you've brought it down, I've brought it up, we've got quite a big power discrepancy.
Yeah.
But it's not from position of salt necessarily, but it's a personal thing where I say, I didn't really feel invested in that game, and I'm a bit annoyed about it. So for the next hour and a half of my life, I'd like to do some stuff, sling some spells, have some interaction, whatever. So I'm going to dial it up a bit in terms of reliability, which brings power. But then, of course, from your perspective, you see that as, he lost the game, so he's just gone and got his spiciest of decks from the spice box, and he's just sprinkling the salt. It's a high sodium game. But I don't know if that's necessarily... I mean, undoubtedly it does happen, though.
It does happen.
That people go away and they come back and they say, I'm coming for you.
Yeah,
I do it as well. I completely do that as well. You start on a deck, and unfortunately sometimes you naturally have your decks that go up in power rating. You don't start the night with a sledgehammer, do you? So if you have won one, it's not me saying, well done, I need to play better now. And like Ed was saying there, sometimes the byproduct of you want to do stuff and play Magic, if you got a type of deck, if you want to do stuff, if you've been playing for so long, you like interaction and stuff like that, your do stuff will be heading towards winning. That's not you trying to stomp the table, but you just want the consistency. Like reliability comes power. Power comes reliability. And that's the decks you know. That's not, as long as you've rules there on it and said, I lost last game, here's this deck, I'm going to play it here. You're still opening it to the floor, and people are able to do that. If someone turned around and said, no, I've only got a precon, and there's not many players that are going to turn around and go, haha, unlucky. Or actually go, okay, cool. I'll take that into account. Let's work with this. If that player does turn around and go unlucky, you've got two lessons there. You've learnt with someone that you know is not going to gel in your LGS or your play group, or you know that you maybe need to think about a better strategy to deal with that deck if that person's going to be like that.
True.
Always lend decks as well. I've often done that.
Yeah, exactly that as well.
If they've only got a precon, we played with a kid. Do you remember Kiefer? Chesham. We played with this about 14-year-old. Oh, steady on, just because you're in a prison cell. So we had we were playing EDH with a friend of ours called Jim and this 14-year-old lad, and we offered to lend him decks several times, but all he wanted to do was play his Strefan Vampire Tribal Precon against my Marwyn deck, which that's up to him. I did warn him what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think ultimately, to end this point, I think just talk about what you want to play, and I think that'll solve most of your problems. Okay, let's talk about what cards specifically make us salty. So I'll start this off, and I'm going to go somewhere where everybody expects me to go.
Blue?
So I would say...
Is it just vanilla counterspell, Kiefer?
No, it's not actually. So obviously, I suppose I should preface this whole kind of section by saying that the cards that we're going to talk about that make us salty specifically are not going to be like the standard Static Orb, Winter Orb, Stasis, all that kind of stuff, because all those cards make everybody salty, But I think we're going to talk about more specifically the cards that make us specifically salty that maybe are not super high on the salt list. But so for me, one of the cards, and I guess it's kind of more of an archetype in a sense that I just despise and I hate it so much. And it's just Thassa's Oracle, Jace Wielder of Mysteries, and Laboratory Maniac. So before you guys jump on me, because I know Ed is dying for it, I will just explain the reason why I hate this. And this is where we're talking about salt, and we're going to be generating salt here too, I think. Because the reason why I do not like this is that, for me personally, I think it's an incredibly boring and kind of almost like devoid of any thought in your deck kind of way of winning the game, right? Because that's what they say, that the whole reason why you're doing it is to win the game. And I just think that it kind of goes, for me, it goes against the kind of idea of Commander, where everybody plays a game and you're all just having fun together, and then this person is just sitting on their own, just cycling through their deck until they can exile it all and then cast this card and say, I win.
I feel like this is pointed at me.
And so that for me is just...
Mate, and me, don't worry.
That for me is... I don't understand why people would want to play these cards, and whenever I see them, whenever somebody wins against me with this kind of a deck, like, I don't get salty very often, and I'm sure the guys can attest to that, but a Thassa's Oracle or Labman win will generate some salt from me.
It's also the interaction you need to get that as well, because it needs to be very specific. This guy can do it all they want. It's very... They're not interacting with anyone else. If they are, it's just using the big no spell against you, which is cool. Fair enough. You've got this idea in your head. You want to protect it. But the issue is, as soon as it hits the battlefield, you've got that ATB. There's nothing that can be done. It's a very instant thing to fight against, and sometimes it's quite frustrating not having. How can you interact with that? It's a very single-minded win con.
I disagree.
Yeah.
I disagree. I disagree for several reasons. The first reason is that if somebody is slowly drawing their entire deck in blue, but they're drawing it at a rate that's much faster than everybody else, or they're self-milling or something, I think once you've played a few games, that is telegraphed exactly what they're going to do. So at that point, you're like, okay, I just need to kill you now, unless you're in blue yourself, in which case you can hold a counterspell. But otherwise,
That's
it's
just
just like, okay.
warping the game, though, right?
Yeah, but not really. But like, it's like any sort of strategy, like black using its life as a resource, or Chainer using graveyards. You're like, okay, I need to employ some graveyard hate. I need to tutor for it, or I need to fuck you up, because if Chainer gets his graveyard full, then my game is going to end. It's at a certain point.
Yeah, but
so
I think
it's just
said,
any strategy. It's just any strategy like
what
that.
Josh said is that it's very difficult to interact with it.
Well, not really. They only have 40 life points.
And to be fair,
if you do it all in one turn.
Okay.
If you
now
do
that's
a
different.
consultation Thassa's Oracle.
That's different. Okay, so that's different. So that brings me on to my second point, which is that you have to consider where the game lands, because there's lots of interaction that you can't just simply. Right, let me come on to my third point before you shout at me. But you cannot just simply Thassa win the game. Most decks have to work up to it. So my Thassa win the game deck, I have to assemble a separate infinite combo and then drop Thassa. It's a combo that is creature based and therefore inherently kind of fragile. And I can't win on the stack by doing it over whatever you try and interact with me with. So any kill spell will work. And if you're not running kill spells or you're not drawing into them, then the game ends. And I think that's fair, certainly at the power level where I pitched that deck, which is quite high, up towards the 8s, the 9s. I wouldn't play it against something that was considered, not 9, sorry, 9 is CDH, but like very high 7s, maybe, but definitely in the 8 bracket is where I would put that. And I think that's totally fair, because it's a creature-based infinite combo. It's not that strong or resilient, and Thassa is just one of the ways in which it can end the game. So the final thing is Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation is totally horrible. The only way to interact with it is on the stack using a counterspell, and I don't think that has any place in casual EDH. I also don't think Thassa's Oracle into some way of reanimating at instant speed, like a leveler or something like that, has any place in casual EDH, because as Josh said, and I think he's totally right, the interaction you need to stop that is highly specific. You need to firstly know that's going to happen and counterspell the Thoracle, or if you don't realize that's happening and they cast Demonic Consultation, you have to counterspell the consultation. They've probably got a counterspell to stop you, because otherwise they wouldn't try it. So then you've either got to counterspell the counterspell, which now you're veering into the realms of free counterspells, which are not budget, they're quite prohibitively expensive. Or you can try and stifle the Thoracle trigger, but stifles are very rare in anything other than very competitive formats. So Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation, Thassa's Oracle Leveler, those sorts of instant speed kind of wins, which belong in CDH. They do belong in CDH, and I don't think they have a place in casual EDH. If somebody beat me with a deck that did Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation, I wouldn't play with that person again. Unless we were all on the understanding that is what was going to happen, because I don't run decks that can deal with it. And I'd just be like, I would feel like that was a misrepresentation of what was going to happen in the game, and it was a breach of the social contract.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously
very well put.
That's your argument, which is fine. Still makes me salty.
It's okay. You're a high sodium guy, dude.
I think that's well put, because I think EDH has got a bunch of ways of winning the game, but there's the really obvious one, which is you kill all your opponents. There's the really hard one, which is you mill everyone out. That's probably one of the hardest ones to pull off. There's milling yourself out. Yeah, there's tricks to do that, but like as I put really well just said, I think some of those tricks are probably rightly frowned on. And then there's really all the other weird edge ways of winning, right? Like, with the game cards, which have been fun. But for the most part, you're either going to be reducing everyone's life total to 0, or you're going to be milling yourself out. I think those are the most two common win cons. And I think I struggle to pick cards that make me salty as such, and I'm going to say 5 words, and then I'm going to clarify, because again I think this will make some people disagree with me. And those 5 words are Finale of Devastation, Crater Hoof Behemoth.
Hang on, let me just ban Tim.
I mean, okay, and
why? But why?
reasoning,
Why, Tim? Yeah, what's the reasoning?
I've got reasoning here, which is I think I'm not against that at all. I think that's fine. That is a way of winning the game. You're a green deck. If you've got a green go wide deck, that is fine. What I think is a problem in my mind in Commander is that green is somehow immune to salt. Like we're talking. So I guess for people who maybe don't know, which I can't think many people will be watching a Commander podcast who don't know these 2 cards. Finale of Devastation is X and 2 green, and basically allows you to go and bring a creature card from your library and put it onto the battlefield where X is greater than its casting cost. And if it's 10, everything also gets, if it's more than 10x, everything also gets plus X power toughness and gains haste. And Crater Hoof Behemoth is going to do almost exactly the same part of apply to everything. So if you've gone really wide, you play the Behemoth, you then swing in and kill everyone in one go.
And
right? So
Hoof gives it trample as well.
Trample just to get around, just to really ram it home. And it tends to be, things like elf. Yeah, exactly. And traditionally, it's things like elf decks, which is a lot of green, or any other kind of green go white deck, like Eve or something like that. We'll play this, and it will back to like things like big mana stuff. So the way that green can ramp, get things like Gaia's Cradle or the other kind of Gaia's Cradle effects, which makes it act. Exactly, and it actually makes it relatively easy to do, to the point where it becomes, this is the way that green decks kind of win. They either go really tall and smash face, or they go really wide and smash face. And that's fine. But we're not allowed to be salty about that. But we are allowed to be salty about how blue wants to win the game.
So
blue's not likely to win the game by beating everyone's face down for 120 points of damage, right? It's not going to do that. So it has to have a way of winning. And that's got to be something like milling everybody out, which is probably even more soul-inducing than milling yourself out and winning that way.
So do you think it's more? It's more not necessarily those 2 cards in themselves, but it's more about them coming much earlier than they should.
Yeah, it's the, and I mean,
like if you were on turn 12 and you had 12 mana.
At that point,
to cast the finale for 12 mana, to get your Crater Hoof and do the whole thing, is that better, or is it just as much feel bad?
I mean, again, I'm not necessarily saying in itself it's a bad thing. Game, if you can cast a big spell to end the game should probably be ending. But it's part of what makes part of the green is immune to saltiness thing. It's also about the way that green ramps, right? So green ramps in a uniquely different way to every other color. So almost every other color has to rely on mana rocks as their primary method of ramping, because they just don't have other methods. I mean, maybe there's there's treasure manufacture now, right? Which is maybe another subject for Soul. But green is uniquely going to be casting lots of cards to go and fetch lands, to grow your land estate to the point where you can ramp. You're going to ramp a lot quicker in mono green than anything else. And the kind of ways of trying to attack that are traditionally things which are frowned upon. So
that's why land destruction should be allowed. And I've changed my mind on that. Yes. I've changed my view on that in the last 6 months.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I mean,
mass for 9.
No one would bat an eyelid about mass artifact destruction, right? People might go, "Oh, all the stuff's gone," and maybe if you've got an artifact heavy deck, you're going to be really sad. But it's part of the game which people accept, that mass land destruction. That's just like, we talk about the social contract, and that's. They either need to make up their mind about that. I honestly think they should just put all the mass land destruction cards on the ban list, because they are the community bans them. There's cards which do get banned, which are less salt-inducing than mass. If everybody played mass land destruction,
The problem with mass land destruction, and I'm on the fence about it. I think it's important, but the problem with mass land destruction is not that it happens. The problem is that it is so excruciatingly, painfully slow to start again that I would rather just play a different game.
no,
But if
I
there
agree.
was like a great targeted land destruction, there isn't enough efficiently costed land destruction that is not mass land destruction. There's like Ghost Quarter and Strip Mine and those, but there's nothing in between that and mass land destruction. Like you got Stone Rain, but that's what, like a 3-mana sorcery. They're
there's
horrible.
There's a lot of those, but those kind of effects. But I think you know in a 4-player game they're going to be terribly inefficient.
They don't have enough of
There's
an
not-
impact in
there's
pushing
not
your
many-
game forward to justify investing the mana to knock somebody back by 1 land.
So
But
I
yeah,
did a bit of thinking about what cards are there out there which kind of try to slow down that method of ramping. And the one I could come up with was maybe Confounding Conundrum, which
Don't know that
means that it's a blue enchantment for 1 and a blue.
would be
You'll like
blue,
this.
wouldn't it, Keeper?
When Confounding Conundrum
Yeah,
enters
yeah.
the battlefield, you draw a card. But also, whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player had another land enter the battlefield under their control this turn, they return a land to their hand. So this could slow down mono green ramp
Mm-hmm.
quite a lot. It could affect their game plan. I think, as a person who likes to play a fair amount of blue in their decks, that if I played that, I'd be seen as the problem because green
Not
is
by
immune to
me,
salt.
Tim.
Okay, but green but basically, I think green players are so used to just being able to do their plan of spew out their entire spew out a ton of land, draw cards,
Mm-hmm.
make
Like
a million
me-
tokens, win.
Me speaking as a heavily green player, I think that there should be more effects like Confounding Conundrum. The one issue I have with Confounding Conundrum is, and I think we mentioned this briefly before we started recording, is that not only does it stop the ramp, but it also kind of turns off lands in another negative way, which is, fetch lands. So if you play a fetch land like a Wooded Foothills or something just to smooth out your mana base, if you have a Confounding Conundrum, I play a Wooded Foothills, I crack the Wooded Foothills, the next land that comes in off that fetch, I have to return it. Or I have to return a land.
Are you saying I should feel sorry for you for playing some of the most powerful cards in Magic the Gathering?
No, but I'm just saying.
Okay, because I just don't.
No, because
fetch lands are so strong.
Yeah, but what I mean
turning them off
is,
is totally fair.
it could be in an Evolving Wilds. You know what I mean?
I am going to Blood Moon you so hard one
It's
day.
the same thing. It's like with an Evolving Wilds.
done
I
that
think what would be better, and what I think they should,
I've even-
should definitely print, and they might already be printed. Maybe it has been. Maybe it's just not played very often. But something that basically says, and you can tell me if this is a card or not already, but something that basically says, whatever sorcery instant, whatever it is, but says like choose the player with the least amount of lands. Everybody chooses that many lands and then sacrifices the rest. So just level out the playing field again, because you're doing it's mass land destruction, but you're not setting everybody back to the point of having to start from turn 0 again.
It's balanced, and it's banned in Commando.
Yeah, what's the name of the card?
Balance. But that also does creatures as well, right?
And
Yes,
hand
it
size,
does.
I
Yeah,
believe.
it does do creatures.
Yeah.
I think if there was something for just lands, that would be heavily played, and I don't think people would be as salty about it.
I do
agree.
think there
I
should
can think
be
of-
cards that actually punish people for having too many lands.
Mm-hmm.
So
Price of Progress.
as we played against Jim, and Jim managed to win the game by me, Ed, and Kiefer being greedy and having too many lands.
Not me. He copied my own Peer into the Abyss and
Which was-
killed me with something else.
Which is fantastic. But he basically said, you've got all these fancy lands, they're not non-basics, so you will take 2 damage for each. And that just wiped my board. Stuff like that. It needs to be seen in red, more of that stuff, because like Mana Web. Mana Web is whenever you tap a mana for one colour, it will tap the rest So basically, it says you can have that land, but you're going to use this mana right now, and this is not going to happen anymore because that limits the player that's doing exactly what he's saying. Like green, I agree what Tim was saying earlier because it actually was quite profound to me. The fact that the Crater Hoof finale is the exact same as Fast as Oracle. It is the win con of green. Blue does have Fast as Oracle. It is annoying because it's very self-interaction, but that's the same with finale. You pretty much mana dark, land, cool, hoof, which is so unoriginal. But if a new player did that, that'd be amazing. But it's so often that you see these cards. That's where the salt starts building.
It is unoriginal, but like, I would stand by this. How else are you going to win the game with 10 1/1s?
Yeah, but it's never 10, is it?
Triumph of the Horde.
I mean, that's a lot of people find that equally salty as well.
As
Do
long as
you
you're
know
not
what the
putting
thing is?
trap
I think
on.
people just find win-con cards salty because it means that they lose the game.
Games have to fucking end, and if I can get 12 mana and play Finale of Devastation, and I also have a board that I can then swing out with, then the game is over, and I think that's totally fine.
And and if I could, I'd blow up your board before you could do that. And
Correct.
That's perfectly fair.
Yes.
I do feel like we do play casual Commander, but we do need to interact with one another, and sometimes it's not a nice interaction. Unfortunately, if you do have Marwyn out, if she dies, it's going to affect you. If I kill your board, it's going to affect you. If you stop me from playing a spell that's going to cause me to ramp, it will affect me. And there is cause and effect in all Magic games. It's just the person that takes the earnest of go, oh, fuck's sake, you've done it to me again. I'm not going to play anything now. And that's just sometimes how it is. And that could be because that player is like so close to finishing the game out, better than just saying finishing, that they want to see the end and see it through. So it is like I personally run cards that people find salty, but that's just because I need to have that little level there to help me play a deck against, let's say, Kiefer's Sacrifice Jund deck, an AC deck, which Simic players like to play. So my most salty card it's mostly from an experience and also because of the cards. I do feel like sometimes the cards were built before Commander was made, which they obviously were, and then they've been brought into this format. And it is Cyclonic Rift. Return all let me
Alt-Clonic Rift.
Cyclonic Rift. It's here. I do have it. I'm sorry. Target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. It's an instant. It's 1 and blue, and then you can overload it for 7. Now the issue with this is it is very one-sided, and blue being blue, there's a lot of ability to recur it as well. So it's a card that you may see several times in a game, and I have seen it where people have just done it, and unless you play blue, you cannot counter that spell and you will be locked out of a game. Like Mystic Sanctuary enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 3 or more other lands, and when it enters the battlefield untapped, you may put target instant or sorcery card from a graveyard on top of your library. That is something that can lock someone out of the game, and I feel like it's an extremely powerful card, and extremely I do have it in decks as a last-ditch effort to protect myself. I am running a blue deck, but I do feel like it's used so often, and it's such a game-changing card that it just can flip the game on its state.
Josh, have you ever been Cyclonic Rifted into a windfall with Narset on the board?
I haven't played you in a few weeks, so no.
Shut up! I've never done that to anybody. I've never done that to anybody.
Right into that one.
But that Cyclonic Rift is such an important card. Sorry, James.
Yeah, it's okay. So I would just really quick counter argue with the actual Cyclonic Rift, and being in blue is the only way that you can counter it. Red does have the ability to Pyroblast or Red Elemental Blast. So you do have things out there to be able to do so and react in that sort of a way if you need to. But it's a very niche
And I'll counter
section.
that as by saying that if I have to become that player to meta game against one card, that is a salt that is transferring into my decks to play against one card, which is completely against casual commander.
Chances are that the person casting the Cyclonic Rift wants the Cyclonic Rift to resolve, right? Because they're obviously Cyc Rifting for a reason. So chances are they're going to have a counter in their hand as well.
Yeah,
To counter any attempt to not.
I mean, blue doesn't have many good board wipes. If it had more lower powered board wipes, then I think people would run Cyclonic Rift less often. And
I would
see
be
it
a
less.
lot more. I'd be a lot more happy with Cyclonic Rift if it wasn't an instant.
Exactly.
It is as far as I can. No, I think Settle the Wreckage, is that another one? Potentially.
White.
That's only in
it's
attacking.
It's only attacking, but it's an instant, right? I think that and Cyclonic Rift, as far as I can remember, correct me if I'm wrong, are the only board wipes that are instant speed.
No, because there's things like Oblivion Stone, right?
There's a few.
You can blow up your own Oblivion Stone at instant speed or next
Yeah, so you can tap those, and I suppose Navineral's Disc as well if it's untapped on your board.
Nev's
But that's
kind of sorcery speed though, because you have to play it down most of the time. Play it down and let it untap.
It's telegraphed as well,
But it's like sorcery speed effectively, because you get everyone gets a turn to react to it. So
you can see it. You can see it right there, right? So you're not going to do anything.
But what I mean is sorcery speed in the sense you invest the mana, and then you have, it takes a whole rotation.
Yeah. I think Cyc Rift. Sorry, go ahead, Tim.
I was going to say, I think it almost depends on the way it's used. I think in the way you were just explaining there that someone's recurring it, they're blinking their Archaeomancer repeatedly, and just doing it over and over again. That's no fun for anyone, right? I think if it's it's not fun taking notes, but if it's the Cyclonic Rift to clear the board to win the game, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Or if it's like or if it's someone's about to win, but I can stop them, I can Cyc Rift their hoofed elves. Then I think
why is it
fine.
okay to Cyc Rift to win the game, but it's not okay to Finale to win the game?
No.
When Finale costs 12 mana and Cyc Rift costs 7.
But that's not what I said. I said the opposite of that. No. I said
we have it on recorded. We have it recorded.
That's the opposite of what I said, because I said that my problem is that every other colour, when they do a thing like that, or when blue does a thing like that, that's salt inducing. But when green does that, which it does all the time, green is salt proof, right? We're allowed to green.
That's the point. Okay, I actually do get salty when someone crater hoofs me, but the game is over, so I just move on. It is
the
salt
problem
inducing.
I think, like we said, Tim, is that it happens well in advance of when it should. It's like you're casting something that should cast 12 mana on turn 5 because the person has ramped so much.
I was playing a game not too long ago. I think, Tim, you were there for a few of it, and we were going against Maxwell, who's been in the previous podcast, and he played a Selesnya deck, and then he played possibly a Simic deck. It had green in it. No, it was Marwyn, and then it was a Selesnya deck. And basically, the issue was the fact that he finaled into a hoof. Then we played the next game, and he finaled into a hoof, which is... It's great. It did the same stuff though, but like Tim was saying there about the Cyc Rift, there's not a lot of times that a blue player will Cyc Rift and then win that turn, because they don't often win on critical mass. So if someone is Cyc Rifting, it's to stop someone else winning the game. But what they're doing is they're just brushing the whole board and saying, you guys don't have any chance either. That guy's not winning. Neither of you two. You've lost all your progress. Let's carry on.
Yeah, it's like mass land destruction in that regard. You just set the whole board back a few turns. You don't win. Yeah, except for yourself, but you haven't won. You've just created a very small amount of incremental value. I also find that painful because it's just... I don't like very long, grindy games, and that sort of play pattern that Josh is describing, where you're maybe Cyc Rifting every 2 games or something, every 2 turns, sorry, then you're not actually progressing that fast, because your mana advantage is like 7, 8, but you're grinding a clock where eventually you're going to have an insurmountable advantage. But in the meantime, nobody else plays the game, and that's what people hate about mono blue.
Yeah, but this comes back to the thing: how does mono blue win then, right? Because mono white
forces people to concede
without the swing codes. mono white has easier ways. Mono white has like really good Voltron strategies for winning, especially with light pulls now, right? And I've been playing the SRAM deck for ages, which does pretty well for mono white, but now it looks up at light pulls and goes, oh man, should have chosen auras rather than equipment, right? But so mono black can drain people out of the game quite easily. Mono green can just smash face. Mono red can do terrible things with goblins, for example. There's plenty of ways that mono red can win quickly. How does mono blue win if it's not by trying to get some kind of Vasta's Oracle or Lapman style win card?
The fact that I agree with you doesn't mean I enjoy it anymore.
Yeah,
I agree, but I just don't like it.
Yeah, but you could have Merfolk, they can smash face.
Wizards?
What is stopping
Flying.
you from?
a lot of
You
flyers, I
could
believe.
basically +1/+1 counters. Who says there's not counters there? Just because it's for path of least resistance doesn't mean it's okay to just go for Vasta's Oracle. You just basically, like Ed said the other day, I will disagree what he said. He said that milling yourself is a resource. No, it's not. It's using 10 cards in your deck to get to the card you want to get your combo.
Wait, when did I say that?
You said earlier the fact that milling yourself is classed as a resource. Like if a black player uses 40 life, that is a resource to them. Your deck is a resource to you.
I'm sorry. I meant like game plans.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. You're just going through your deck and just ditching the rest of them cards to get to your shiny card to play it and go, hey guys, I did it. And that's it. There's plenty of stuff you can play with mono blue or look at Dimir Rogues. That was a precon. It came out. It was a fantastic deck. It was reasonably priced.
Famously not mono blue though.
Yeah, I get that, but you've got blue in there. Like we're talking about green Selesnya stuff.
Yeah, but
that.
but I mean, if Tim's very specifically saying how does mono blue win, and I think saying well Dimir can win with rogues is a bit
okay,
unfair,
yeah,
because I could say the same thing. Oh, blue can win with Dragon, right? That's how blue wins. Don't be so dense, Tim. Come on. But so I think to be fair to Tim, I think he's right to say that mono blue has its mono blue win cons are grindy. They involve frequently involve self mill or grinding incremental value until you have an insurmountable advantage, milling yourself one card at a time, preventing anyone else from playing the game for 30 or 40 turns, maybe 4.5 hours.
Not bad news for Kiefer. I'm finally building a mono blue deck, but it's good news.
He will be delighted.
It will not be.
Of all people,
that
I have a mono blue deck.
I don't believe you.
I think that's a lie.
It's a Nezahal Primal Surge, whatever it's called.
Oh, it's Sea Monster Tribal, isn't it?
Sea Monster Tribal.
That's cool.
It's Timmy builds mono blue.
Yes,
No,
and that's how I like to play blue.
Actually, yeah. You're
You're just playing green, but in blue.
Yeah, there you go. That's how you win in mono blue. Play green. All right, Yao Ling, what do you got?
I'll say one card, and I actually love this card for what it is.
So you love it, but it also makes you salty.
Oh no, it doesn't make me salty, but it makes everyone else salty.
No, that's for the next section. What's the card that makes you salty?
Okay, we'll go with this. Shall we say knowledge pool?
Oh God, yes.
But
I don't even know what knowledge.
I think that's
it's where
agree.
that's where you play a spell and it goes in the middle, and you can play a spell out of the middle, isn't it? Oh,
yeah.
Why?
But you mix, or even possibility storm, but you mix it in with something like.
I gotta ban him. I've got to ban someone.
All right, let's just read knowledge pool quickly here. Right? So knowledge pool, 6-mana artifact has imprint. When knowledge pool enters the battlefield, each player exiles the top 3 cards of his or her library. Whenever a player casts a spell from his or her hand, that player exiles it. If the player does, he or she may cast another non-land card exiled with knowledge pool without paying its mana cost.
So
I thought we were reading knowledge pool.
It's just
why would I want to play my cards when I can just play random shit that other people have?
Yeah, but it gets worse when you add something like Granith Magistrate in there. Lavinia from Ravnica Allegiance.
So much fun.
Yeah, just lock the board out.
Are you going to win this turn? No. Probably not.
Are you going to win
play
this
Magic?
turn? No, you're not.
But you're not playing. I'm going to win eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's play it out.
Like an awkward way just to get that social interaction with that player. Like, I really wanted to talk to you. I didn't know how to do it, so I locked you out of the game. So
The rest of the players are just like that.
And in fact, I really love these kind of stacksy things, and I think I'm just going to go off on another one because I love these cards. We went on Kiefer's giant Corvold deck, right? I remember one time we played, I think I was playing Jeskai as Kaikar, and this enchantment's absolutely amazing because Kiefer had loaded his deck with a whole bunch of non-basic lands, and I slammed down a back to basics, and he can't untap those lands.
Yeah, but that doesn't make you salty. It makes me salty. That's not the section we're on. We're not on that section yet.
But if it was like in my situation and I was in that situation, then yeah, I'd be like, I just want to be able to play my stuff.
Have you just reflected your soul?
So you're acknowledging that you're doing it purely to make people salty.
Yeah.
God.
But
honesty.
if I was in your situation on the opposite side of what would be my decks, I can understand where you guys are coming from. Those ones would probably really put that level up high.
James, who hurt you?
Absolutely
me.
one.
Come on.
I probably fell down the stairs when I was younger.
Several times.
Yeah, explain
Maybe.
it.
But you're a horrifying man.
All right, Ed, round us out, Ed, with the cards that
makes
make
me
you
salty?
Yeah.
I actually am going to cheat because I don't think any particular cards make me salty. I think that people make me salty. I think I'm extremely intolerant, and that a card like Possibility Storm, that definitely makes me salty.
Your reaction a moment ago.
I hate that. I think, okay, so I guess Possibility Storm does make me salty because when I come, I'm bringing a deck that I built, I want to play with, and Possibility Storm I would just like rather not play. So chaos effects like that where I just play a thing and then I just get whatever the fuck comes out of my deck. I don't find that inherently enjoyable. I don't find it enjoyable in board games either. Board games with a high degree of random chance frustrate and annoy me, and I like to have agency in what I'm doing. So Possibility Storm is like the anti-Ed card, if there ever was one. But I often find actually it really is the people I'm playing with. If I like those people, I can tolerate more of that stuff. There will come a point where I won't want to play it anymore, but if Josh played a Possibility Storm, or somebody else I play with, Luke, he plays a lot of that kind of crap. If he plays a Possibility Storm, I won't refuse to play with him, but I probably would ask him not to play that deck the second time we play.
Yeah,
but I will. But it doesn't make me salty, but it's the people that make me salty.
There's a guy local to me who plays a Chaos deck, and you play it once, and like 2 hours later, every time anyone plays a card, it takes about 10 minutes to figure out what's going to happen because there's so many layers,
boring,
chaos effects, and eventually everyone just scoops, and it's like, okay, that was an experience. Let's not do it again.
Let's not do it again. Also, part of the reason why I don't particularly like to play Plane Chase, because I feel like it's got that same kind of random element to it, where I'm just like...
I played it once, and I really enjoyed it, but it's not EDH.
It's a board game.
It is what it's different. It's a different experience. I wouldn't go into that looking for EDH, but I enjoyed it very much.
I played it once with Ed, and we started a late night game, and I got chaosed so many times that I couldn't cast spells. And it went on for half an hour that I couldn't cast spells.
And then nobody could cast spells.
Yeah, no one could cast spells. And then I did something I don't do often. I came out full salt. Photo. I don't often do this, and I was just like, I'm ending this game right now, and I did that turn. I was just like, it's just ridiculous. I do feel like players do have the ability to end turns, end games, stuff like that, but the etiquette kind of prevents you from being a douchebag.
Yeah,
it doesn't prevent you, but it prevents most people. Yeah,
that's just my aura.
It's an interesting one because I mean, like I mentioned, I play a Voltron deck, which is it's not bad. It tends to do that thing that the problem that a lot of Voltron decks have is that they come out of the gates super fast, and then you're the arch enemy and everyone kills you. But on the other hand, if you get to the position of right, I can start killing people now, I actually really struggle with that as personally, because it's like I've got to take someone out of the game.
Feels mean, right?
It feels bad. Yeah, it really feels bad. So it's a really
I
weird one to
disagree.
play.
Yeah, James is
Oh,
currently
yeah, you
hiding
fucking
in
would,
direction.
Yeah.
You wouldn't, would you?
Throw a lightning
is-
bolt
Disability
at
storm
every-
trying to magistrate, motherfucker. I timed you out, just so you know.
That is the big difference between a competitive player and a casual player, is they will have no problem just murdering someone, like one person, and letting them sit out of the game for half an hour while the rest of them finish.
When you put this together, can you put the four of us like over here, and can you just put James like small over in the corner, just to make it clear that we're not with him? You know, we're not with him.
I can play like that, right? I play Mon a bit, and I've got a really, really aggro affinity Mon deck, and even the word affinity makes some people just come out in hives because they remember the affinity of old, where it's just completely unfair.
Was that Eldrazi Winter?
It was around. It was. I mean, it's a long way back, but yeah, people have long memories with that stuff, and it's now just about a viable Mon. It's not top tier. It's kind of maybe second tier. People see affinity effects and come out in hives, but it's also a kind of thing where it's super fast aggro, and I don't mind winning like that because again, it's 1 versus 1, versus 1 game. There's only one person to kill, but in a 4-player game, if you're suddenly at the effect where you've got like unblockable hexproof commander that's going to deal 20 damage to people and like immediately remove them from the game, and there's 3 people and they're all like ha ha ha, and you're just like oh what do I do now? I find that's the bit where I start to feel a little bit uncomfortable in that format. But
I get that.
I want to point out real quick, we're going back to that time where I bolted Thomas in the face. Yeah, I had that bolt in hand for a good couple of turns. He was at 3 life, Kiefer was at 1. Yeah, I could have bolted them at any time. I only did it when the threat happened.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. Threat assessment is important, right?
That is another massive thing there, isn't it? That's one of the most soul-inducing threat assessment. Let's say, Kiefer, you're just a judge on this one. We're all playing, and my threat assessment could mean that Ed's playing AC. Tim's got his Sengir, which he likes to play, and James is trying to stop the world. Don't know what he's playing, but you understand. But basically, I could be, because I've played these decks before, my threat assessment could be the bit that actually causes the most soul-inducing play of the game. Because, like you roll a dice. But some people like to do that with Voltron to stop the people getting upset because they got attacked. If it's down to a dice, but some people go, "Why are you attacking me? I'm not doing anything." Next turn, win.
I totally
John T, that one's for you. I still remember.
If anyone plays with John T, he's a really nice guy, but he will win. That's that's my experience of Johnny. But no, all jokes aside, like I've played a game with Ed before, and Ed had been so strong all game, and basically I did something that meant that Ed wasn't going to win. So either player could win. That was my move. My move caused Ed to be extremely upset because he was like, well, why would you king make? What is king making? I don't believe king making is bad. I feel like you do what you can with your deck, but other players do believe.
King making.
Yeah, exactly that. It's you don't talk about it in Rule Zero. Say, please don't king make, because sometimes you are king making if you do going against arch enemy. It's just one of them things that happens. There's so much interactions.
You have to play. You have to play your outs, right? So it's like.
But that was not an out.
Yeah. But what I'm talking about.
That was a king make.
But what I mean is you have to play. You have to play your outs, right? So if somebody's about to win, say Ed, you're like literally about to cast one spell, you're going to win, and then Tim also has a really threatening board. He's going to also probably win if you don't win. But what are the other 2 players supposed to do? Just not do anything and allow you to win? Like,
I don't think that
they need to stop you, but then I don't think
king making and playing it outs are the same, and conflating the 2 is unhelpful.
I think it's difficult to make those determinations in a game.
I disagree.
I think if you're going to win and Tim is going to win on his next turn, then the other 2 players, they can't just decide to do nothing. They if they can do something to stop these people, they should.
So if your play causes somebody else to win, I don't think you should do it. But it has no bearing whatsoever on what happens to you.
But so they should just let you in.
It's a fine
politics.
line.
Yeah, but why would you then allow the other person to win? But
Well, I mean,
that's the side of the
they
same
would
coin. It's exactly the same.
I mean,
If you
it's similar.
counted,
Go ahead.
if you counted if you counted 4 things throughout my game, my deck is aiming to remove players. And pretty much, let's say you've counted 4 things, you give me a bit of a hard time because I was getting steam. It's in the game. That is how it works. But politics there, if you have done something, it's the possibility to either kill you or take out Frank, who's just been my best friend all game.
I think that sort of attitude drives towards a place that I don't want to end up, which is effectively you generate a situation where the only way for me to play the game is to systematically eliminate one person one by one. Because if it's going to be like that, then I need to make sure that you are gone. Because if it comes right round to the end of the game and you have the opportunity to cause me to lose, not to take me out, but to cause me to lose, whilst simultaneously losing yourself, you're going to do it, then I need you gone early. So then you end up focusing down on one person. That's a very competitive mindset, and it's not what I like.
You need to read more Machiavelli, man.
It's very competitive.
I don't think that is competitive. Because if it's a casual game, you've said rule 0, and if it's back-to-back, players only have so many kill spells, only so many. If that player has been punished that game, and you've consciously punished that person, and then if they're going to die on the back crack, that is their choice. That is their choice to play the game. You should never be in a turn and say,
you're playing a different game if you do that.
No, but what I'm saying is, if I've got a turn and I want to do something with my deck and take someone out, which my deck is primed to do, let's say it's Voltron, I could take you out and then the next player could win, or I could take out that other player and you could win next. But I've taken a player out, and that's important to me because my deck's done something. Just because you have a byproduct that you're not going to win now because you didn't have protectors up or anything like that, I'm still able to interact with my deck and go for.
You're changing the way the game works.
Yeah, I will be. It's a 4-player
in a way that I think is inappropriate because
you're not winning.
No.
You're not.
You're changing the expectations of what everybody sits down to. So you're actually saying, I don't want to win anymore. I just want you to lose. That's not what I said. That's not what I agreed to when I sat down.
Yeah, but what Machiavelli says, there's only 2 ways you should treat people, right? Which is you flatter them or you destroy them. Because if you do small injuries to people, they will remember, right? And they will hold it against you.
That's quite apt, yeah.
That's not how I usually play the game.
It's a similar thing that I've experienced as well, where I have been on the receiving end of a killing blow from someone, and I still have a fair bit of a board state, and so I'm going to die regardless. But I decide to block as best I can to remove as much of their board as I can on my way out.
That's slightly different.
And I think it's slightly different, but it's in the same kind of, at least in my opinion, it's in the same kind of space. Because if I didn't do that, if I just said, yeah, no worries, you can just kill me, I think that's very kind of says to that person that as soon as you threaten me with lethal, I'll just I think
fold. That what you're saying about folding is closer to king making than playing your outs and assigning blockers and death touch and stuff like that, because you're not out of the game at that point. So it's appropriate for you to play. It's almost like accounting. You should always act as a going concern. So you should always act as if you're going to be there next turn until you're no longer there.
Exactly.
So assigning blockers.
Why wouldn't I kill you if I could?
Because you're killing me or anybody, knowing because of what is on the board and what you have in your hand that you are going to lose if you do it, and if you don't do it, the game continues.
I've got a counter offer on there. So earlier on, you were talking about I know this is your opinion. I'm not saying you are wrong. I'm just trying to shed some more light on this. But earlier you said, Kiefer, when you've got Karth, I know I need to end you. You do not know what the other 2 players are doing, but you need to end Kiefer. You have got that in your mind because you know what his deck does.
No, I was memeing. I wouldn't do that.
No,
I would never do that. I would never sit down and laser focus someone because of who they're in their command zone.
you know what I mean. You've got a certain situation, like if a Toxro player sits at the table.
Okay, that is the exception. Actually, I will have to do that because if the Toxro hits the board,
it's situational.
If Toxro hits the board, and I'm playing like the deck I was playing, which was Low to the Ground Selesnya Tokens deck, I actually can't play the game anymore because I have nothing. I can't like develop a card at Draw Engine. Toxrill is almost unique in that regard, and so is Turgid because of the play patterns.
Turgid's the other example for sure.
But then, that's what I'm trying to say is, so if you get punished by one player in particular, say I've countered 5 of your spells, you are in a position where you can make serious damage to that person's health. Would that be your player's first primary assessment of attacking them?
Am I therefore going to lose the game?
Well, it could be the crackback if you swing.
No, but is it a known factor that I will therefore be out of the game on the crackback based on what's on the board?
It depends if that person attacks you. That's what matters.
Okay, but if I swing out with all my blockers and eliminate so there are 3 people in the game, me and 2 other people. If I swing out with everything and eliminate one person and have nothing on board and no blockers, and they can kill me,
it's gonna be no.
They can kill me, then why would I do that?
But would you just sit and wait to die then?
I would probably.
Would you hold this hand grenade? Just wait. I'm here. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't kingmate. I wouldn't kingmate in that regard.
It's very difficult.
I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I think they're very difficult kind of circumstances to navigate.
Yeah.
Especially in a game because, like you said, there's multiple people and you don't know what that person's going to do with their turn or if they have any kind of interaction to stop or do anything. So, I think it's hard to talk about.
Hand.
You know what's in your hand, and you know what you can do.
And if with the information that I have, I take an action that is going to is not driving towards my own win, but is driving towards somebody else to lose, then you're playing a different game because EDH is fundamentally about winning. There's a social contract, but it is about progressing your own win. And when you cease to do that, you are no longer playing the same game. It's kind of why I hear some people find group hug decks quite frustrating to play against. I've never played against a group hug deck, so I don't really know, but I hear some people find it frustrating because it changes the nature and the rules, and what you've sat down and agreed to can become quite different to what you thought it would be and what you agreed it would be. And I find kingmaking similarly frustrating because I sat down and agreed to a game where everybody would try and win, and as soon as a player ceases to try and win and just wants to fuck with people, then I think it's a different game entirely, and whether or not I've agreed to that may not have come up at Rule 0, and that's what I hate about kingmaking. I don't like it in board games.
I think if it's I'm dying anyway, I'm gonna do it. Yeah, you're going to kill me. Still got a grip full of removal spells. I'm going to take your stuff out. So yeah, you've killed me, but that's the end. You shouldn't have done it to me. I think that's fine.
That's fine.
In my mind, because the argument I've heard sometimes is, well, I'm going to kill you anyway. Why would you do that to me? Well, maybe you shouldn't have attacked me.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's totally fair. That's not what I'm talking about. Yeah. That's totally fair.
What's better to come? Do you either come first or not at all? Is that what you're saying? Because I'd rather come second.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I would say...
Kiefer definitely loves to come second.
One thing that I would say is that I do not go into EDH games with the mindset that I want to win.
But he always comes first, eh?
That is not... that is not like my... That's not what I go into the game expecting people to be like, everybody's playing for their win. That's not kind of my idea of the reason why I play EDH. So that differs for me.
It's not about the win, but that's where you should be moving. How aggressively you move in that direction is up to you, and it depends on the Rule 0. But you don't sit down to just fuck with people. You sit down because your deck is designed to win. Not in a competitive sense. I am telling you that because you don't build group hug decks. So I mean, what else is your deck supposed to do? Just spin the wheels?
Pretty much.
I've never seen you play a deck that just spins wheels.
Here he has. Look at Corvold.
You said it yourself. You said it yourself.
No, it doesn't do anything. I didn't say it spun wheels. It doesn't do anything.
All right, let's move on.